David Taylor, back from the World Championships. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back.
Man, it's so exciting to have you on and to talk about what we're going to talk about, your epic win over Yazdani and just the whole year from, the last time we spoke, probably about a year ago through now. I can't wait to hear all about it, man.
Yeah, let's dive into it.
Yeah, so all during the Worlds, all we kept hearing during the broadcast was David Taylor almost didn't wrestle at Final X this year. And I wanted to talk about, what's it like refocusing for a goal after you've already accomplished your lifelong goal?
It was so difficult. This year, I think, was the most challenging year I think I've ever had. And I've had some challenging years in the past, but this one was just different. It had all kinds of different layers to it and different things that I hadn't really experienced before. I think it kind of dates back for me to winning the World in 2018, and having the momentum, and at the time feeling like, all right, I'm back, I'm here, I've won the Worlds, I'm gonna start rattling these things off. I feel like I'm like untouchable. That's kind of like what I thought. And I had that mentality kind of going into that Beat the Streets match. That morning, even that morning of that match, I had this meeting. It was like a super emotional meeting. That just I was distracted. I wasn't even focused on being there, and I took wrestling Drew Foster for granted, really. And I go out there for a scramble, boom, tear my ACL. And I just think that was challenging because I was faced with this. Do I get surgery? Do I not get surgery? Get back for the Olympic trials? I got 10 months. Like, boom, I'm gonna jump right into surgery right away. So I jumped right into surgery. I didn't really have time to prehab anything. So surgery was done pretty good. Then I kind of ran into some difficulties in my rehab because I had this adhesion in my knee where I couldn't bend it, basically. And it's kind of rare. So I had to have second surgery, get that taken out. I think it was a little bit of a blessing because it delayed me getting back on the mat. But this entire time, I was just training like a madman. I was like, okay, well, I got to be back to Olympic trials. I'm at my peak, and I was training hard. My mentality was my every day, my rehab. I was doing 2-3 sessions a day, whether it was rehab, if it was physical therapy, if it was massage therapy, if it was anything I could do to be I got to get back. And my rehab was going slower than I wanted it to go. So I was kind of frustrated. Then I had that second surgery. Then I didn't get back on the mat until January that year. And then I think 12 weeks later, I wrestled the Olympic trials qualified the weight. So it was just tunnel vision, and I was back and I was ready, and I believe I was ready to make the team. Then everything gets delayed. The day I qualified the weight for the Olympics, that night was everything was shutting down in Canada. So we drive back over the border, everything shuts down, and I'm still in training mode. So I'm okay, I'm back, I'm healthy. I just kept training in my garage, again, these crazy. I'm okay, well, now I can make some gains, and I was just training in my garage hard. Then
wrestling training or like Coach Cal training.
Coach Cal training, my work. I was literally in my garage screaming and crying every time. I'm like, why am I doing this? This sucks. But I'm doing this because I want to win. I got to make up time. I haven't been doing it. So I just I think doing that, training through. I wrestled that Miles Martin match. And I'm used to wrestling 30 matches a year. Now I didn't wrestle for a whole year. Then I wrestled 2 matches. Then I'm off for another extended period of time. And it really started to hit me after that match, because then I had another long layoff. And before I wrestled again, then I wrestled Burroughs in that match in January. And I just wasn't, again, I was just I just kind of struggling with just focus, and because I just been just training nonstop, basically. Then and I started to get really burnt out during that period of time. And then I was able to refocus for Olympic trials, push through the Olympics, because I'm okay, finally now I'm this, my lifelong goal is within reach. And then the Olympics happened. And then, I came home and I achieved this dream. I'm all right, this is great. I'm so happy to be back. It's been this long layoff. And then we come back and I'm just right back, Ken and I go back to work the next day. It wasn't I literally flew back and we had our grand opening of our store, KT Roots downtown. So you were just, we just jumped right back into life, and we never really had time to decompress. And that just lasted this whole year. So when you answer me, what was it like this year? It dates all the way back to then. Mm-hmm. And, just never really took a break. We didn't go on vacation. We didn't, we have 2 kids now. It was just things and our life were just moving so fast that we were just like, I feel like kind of trying to just always play catch up. So this year was just, I was just burnt out, like really burnt out. I was like, when I say I was really contemplating retiring, like I was like many times, even up to like 4 weeks before the World Championships, I was really considering not going. And
Even
I just
after
wasn't
Final X.
after Final X. Yeah.
So
You know,
why did you decide to compete in Oslo? Was that a tough decision or an easy decision?
yeah, I regret that. No, I regret it. I literally regret it every day still to this day, because I achieved what I wanted to achieve, you know, and then I'm like, well, I missed 2019 because I wasn't healthy. I missed 2020 because we couldn't compete. I'm healthy. I have a chance to win another world championship. I should go. But that 8 weeks, I was not focused. Like I was like in and out of the room. I wasn't really training. And I just kind of was riding the momentum from the Olympics, but like I told you, like I was pretty much burnt out.
Mm-hmm.
From the training, like the training side of things, you know, because like I've just been training so hard for so long and had this expectation of excellence since I was a kid. And I think it was just kind of caught up to me of like, why am I really kind of doing this type thing, you know? And still had a good world championship, and I'm, you know, I had a minute to get a takedown, and I just didn't get it. So like I was still so close, but I was not there mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And that ate at me. This like it eats at me every day, because that's just not the way that I want to compete. So I don't know. I just wasn't there for the right reasons. You know, I just wasn't there for the right reasons. And this year I battled with that stuff all year. And I just kept telling myself, you know, like, hey, listen, if I can just get out of my own way, then I'm gonna be great again, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me until like, I don't know, 2 weeks before I wrestled to finally get out of my own way. And then I had probably maybe my best performance I've ever had, you know. And I just think and I feel refreshed, because I feel like I've, you know, kind of, I haven't felt like this in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel refreshed. I feel like it, you know, I was kind of, I could do things differently. You know, I didn't have to like kill myself every day training. You know, I'm going to be 32 years old soon.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just, it's a trial and error process. And you know, we have a lot of things going on here at home. And, you know, to be able to, I told myself to win this world championship was going to be, I think, my greatest victory I've ever had, because it was the first time in my life that I really questioned, like, how much do I really want to be wrestling? Because I like doing a lot of other things. And I just was not in the shape that I wanted to be in. I didn't have the preparation that I wanted to be, or what I'd had the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it comes down to just being a competitor, you know, having that will to win. And I had a game plan that I developed, and I stuck to it, and I executed it exactly the way I wanted to execute it. You know, I had my most dominating performance. So it feels really good. And I feel like now I'm refreshed for the next couple of years, knowing that it can be different and I can still have the same success.
Yeah, like just listening to it, it sounds like two things. One is you never really got to enjoy the Olympic victory. Like you never had like the victory lap where you really celebrate it. And that's if you study like the stories of like heroes and myths, one of the key parts is after a close encounter with death, which is the Olympics, you almost lost, which would have been a death to you. You didn't have like the post-mortem to enjoy it. But then two, you're one of those guys that even when you're not motivated, you're still training hard enough, which is like most people just don't train that hard or train at all. So that's an interesting take, is that you still had it to go through with it, even when you weren't super motivated.
I think, like, you know, my baseline is still higher than most people's peak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in my mind, what's not like, say, all in commitment, or in my mind, what's not, you know, being my best shape, is still higher than 99% of my competitors. You know, and I've just been able to access over the last couple of years damn near 100% of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can only sustain 100% so long. And this year, understanding that it doesn't have to be 100% all the time, but I can still access 100%. You know, I learned I guess that was the advice. Everyone's like, you know how to do these things. It doesn't mean you have to do them every day. You know, and so I feel like it just taught me there's a different way to do it. You know, and I think I'm better. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a better wrestler when, like, you know, not feeling like I have to like go out and like, you know, oh, I got to exhaust this guy and I got to throw him down. I got to dominate them from whistle to whistle. Like this world championships, I just won because I was a better wrestler, and other things were complementary, And I think before I just was focusing on, I wanted to be the best wrestler, be in the best shape, be the strongest, be everything. And that just takes a lot, so I just feel like I have like a different excitement now, like I feel like, okay, now I can relax. I can focus on being a really good wrestler, and I think it's crazy to be at this point in my career, be 31 years old, be Olympic champion, be world champion. And like, I found a new way to get better against Yazdani. I found a different way to wrestle him, to wrestle all those opponents. I was getting turns on top. Like nobody touched my legs the entire tournament. Like I used to have this, like, I'll get with the first takedown and figure it out. That's the first time in 5 meetings, Yazdani, I got the first takedown. I give up 0 push-outs, and I just said, of all the things I had to go through this year and to have my best performance, that's exciting because now I can focus on continuing to get better in other areas. And that to me is very refreshing over the next couple of years. But it just took me a long time to realize, there might be another way to do it,
Wow. It's cool to see that you had that kind of self-exploration, even at this point in your career. So we're going to get to the Yazdani match because the game plan and the way you executed it was beautiful, and it was a total domination. 4 weeks out from the Worlds, you said you almost didn't go. So how close did you get and to calling Coach Bill Zadek or your coaches, and what was the turning point to get you over it?
Oh, I need to grab a charger. Hold on a second.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll be right back.
All right.
So, all right, we're back in business.
Cool.
Well, we were at training camp like 6 weeks before I wrestled, and I just communicated with Bill how I was feeling, and I was hurt. I just was dinged up a lot this year, and I just said, we just got to approach practice differently now. It's got to be a lot of, and I'm super honest. Like, I'm honest about how I feel, and I'm really honest about my assessment of like my performance, because I'm a competitor and I want to perform at my highest level. And so it was just a kind of a group effort. And coach just was, I just said, hey, you just got to trust me and the way that I'm feeling. And I think each practice is going to be a little bit different. And he gave me some good advice. And then I came home from that. I got hurt at that camp. I came home and I was pretty much off the mat for 2 weeks before I left. I was on the mat, but it was pretty light. And, I was like really kind of at that crossroads, like, I'm not going to be what I want to be going to this world championships. And I just accepted that. And, I think it forced me to think of things differently when I was competing. And I was unsure for sure, going into it. My wife asked me, she's like, do you think you're going to win? And I just said, I don't know. I honestly, for the first time that I can remember going to competition that I wasn't sure, it's been a long time. But I just said to her, I said, if I can get healthy, then I believe I'm the best wrestler. And, when I say healthy, it was like in my mind too. The day I set foot in Ramstein, I was different, man. I was different. And I just think my competitor side came too. I was healthy. I was having really good practices for the first time really all year. And each day, I just was a little bit better. I mean, I got to the point where I was wrestling, I felt like I was going to throw up. And I'm like, man, why do I feel this way? I'm like, well, because I'm not in that good of shape,
What?
for the way that I want to wrestle, I wasn't really in that shape, but it came, but it came back pretty fast. And then when I got to the tournament, the lights clicked and I knew it. I'm like, okay, I feel great. I feel really confident in my plan, and I'm going to win. I texted Kendra. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to win. And she's like, that makes me feel good. I can relax a little bit. And, so yeah, this was a different tournament. It was different, and, but I'm really, really happy, really satisfied. I think for, the way I felt after the Olympics and the way that the world's hit me and how disappointed I was, this one, it just felt really good, really good.
Dude, you weren't kidding that you were really in your head before this one, not sure how it would go. And like you said, 6 weeks out, you're off the mat for 2 weeks. That's probably not how you'd like to approach it, being off the mat that long, leading up to a big tournament.
No, like I said, there was a lot of things that were different about this one, but I think for me, for my competitors out there, that, maybe listening to this, right, or whatever, I wrestled 6 matches this year. And maybe I was like a lot of, I just showed that, like I said, I can just do it different, and I really do believe, in the 6 matches, when I wrestled Zahid in the first one, I was a little rusty because I haven't competed in a while. The second one, I was much different. And by the time the Worlds came, I built, each one of those matches, and I was scoring in different ways that I haven't really scored in the past. And, I just think that, maybe I'm a little bit older, but my motivation to win is as strong as it's ever been. My expectation is to win every single time I step on the mat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year I just was able, like I've said it many times, I've just been able to prove to myself that I can do it differently. And I do believe that I was better in this world championship than I was in any previous competition that I was over the last few years. And I think that was only a fraction of what I can be in the next 2 years. And, that to me is really exciting. It gives me something to be refreshed about, because this year I was trying to figure out what's next? Why do I want to do these things? And I think now I can further separate myself from my competition. And I feel like that's come to full circle for me in my mind. And that to me is really exciting.
That's exciting to hear, because man, if there's levels up from there, that's a scary thought for the rest of the world. I mean, that's unbelievable. So moving forward, do you think you'll stick to this kind of lighter 6 to 8 matches a year between now and Paris, or will you ramp up again and do a tour in the future?
We'll see. I mean, I think it's an assessment. I want to wrestle the best events. I'm not really interested in going to an event where I'm not going to wrestle the best people, because that's what is exciting to me. So, we'll see, if a super match or something presents itself, or, there's a really good event or something that I can get excited to go compete at. And I said it at the World Championships, throughout that process. I was excited at the Olympics. I was not excited at the second World Championships. I was excited to be here at this World Championships. So when I'm excited to be somewhere, I don't think I'm going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think I've learned, in my career, it's just find the places and things that make me excited, and then I'm going to perform at my best.
Yeah. When was the last time you wrestled Nafanov from Russia?
The Regan in 2018.
Okay.
So it's been a while. Yeah. So he was on the same side as Yazdani. So 18, I wrestled Kurubliev that year because he beat Nafanov.
Okay.
And then in 20 and 21, Nafanov and Yazdani were on the same side of the bracket.
Yep.
But he's consistently won there, so he's kind of been their guy. I've heard that Kurubliev is going to transfer to another country. And I think these Russians are going to start transferring even at a faster rate than what they have before. Yeah. So I think that, there's some good ones. There's 3 or 4 pretty good ones at 86 kilos that I haven't had a chance to wrestle yet. So I would assume that I wouldn't be surprised if they're wrestling for somewhere else for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I think that our bracket's depth will increase.
Yeah. No, that's it'll be fun to see what shakes out there. And if we go to this year, for you guys, it really didn't matter, because you and Yazdani clearly the best at 86. You roll through the early rounds and really look great. And I love how after the semis match, the Iranian fans, they're awesome. And you give them a little nod, you wave them on. Bro, what was it? What did it sound like to see those guys that close to the mat when you started doing that?
You know, I don't know. I just felt like this again, like, I think because of like how difficult this year was for me, when I was out there, I was like I got chills now. Like, I'm like, I loved it. I loved every moment of competing this year at the World Championship. And like, just, it meant a lot to me to feel that way. So when I was out there, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, you know, I've achieved everything I want to achieve in the sport of wrestling. I'm here now because I want to be here, you know, and I want to dominate these guys. I want to put on a show, and I want to enjoy these moments, you know, and like, their fan base is strong, you know, they're cheering and, you know, yelling, and Yazdani were side by side in like a couple of those matches, you know. So, you know, we're the only weight class this year that had, you know, world and Olympic champion in the same weight class wrestling each other. And, you know, so that's a big matchup, you know, it was being marketed the entire time as the premier marquee matchup. And, you know, that was awesome to like kind of go through that. And, you know,
I like how they love it too, though, man. They love it. You know, they obviously love JB, but man, you getting out there, you know, you can't go to your Instagram without seeing about 1 million Iranian flags in the comments, dude. Like, they definitely know who you are. And when you started, you know, waving to them, it was awesome, because it wasn't like disrespectful. It was like getting them into it, and they were like ready for it, you know?
Yeah.
Man,
it was good. Well, I mean, that's like, you know, as a competitor, like, you want like hostile environment. You want people that are like cheering for you and maybe booing against you a little bit, you know, and like, you know, that's what's going to be the next day, you know, and like, so just give them, you know, I don't know. I think that's what makes our matches like really cool, because their fan base, they travel everywhere. They're loud, you know, and they love Yazdani. So, you know, just having that opportunity to wrestle someone that's good of a wrestler, it's challenged me to get better. And having, you know, that fan base, there's a lot of mutual respect, you know, there, which is pretty cool.
I mean, this is a rivalry that will go down tops of all time, you know, top 3, top 2, and it's happening right now, and it's awesome to see. So, man, going into that match, I was nervous. I'm sure you maybe weren't as nervous, but I mean, everyone was just excited for it because, you know, we knew what happened last time, and it was like, yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, he beat you in Oslo, but let's be real. Like, you just won the Olympics. Like, I don't know if you were at tip top focus, but we knew you were going to be ready for this one, and we knew he was going to be ready for this one. So just kind of walk us through like the match in your eyes and how it went through.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of the history of our matches. Like, the first one, you know, probably had a lot to do with conditioning. The second one, I think, was a combination of conditioning and just, you know, 6 minutes of hard wrestling. You know, then at that point in time, he wrestled me. He wrestled me like he wrestled everybody else, and I out wrestled him. Then he had, you know, 3 years to prepare for me for the Olympics. And I look at it like, at the Olympics, I was preparing to win the Olympics, and I think in his mind, he was preparing just to beat me. You know, and their plan worked almost perfectly. And he definitely changed it. He changed it from 2018 to 2021, and I didn't really change what I was doing. You know,
because the Olympics, it was what, 1 point, a 1 point lead with 20 seconds left, or was it tied with 20 seconds left?
Yeah, so he got the shot clock point right off the bat, and then they called me for like a grounded flee in the hold, and I went down 2-0. Then I got the takedown 2-2, and then he pushed me out right after that. So I was down 3-2 with like minute 17 left.
Okay.
And then I got the takedown on that restart with like 20 seconds left to win by 1. You know, but like, I had to work really hard to get that takedown, you know, those 2 takedowns. I think I shot 17 times in that match. Wow. You know, so I had to work and got 2 takedowns, you know, so like they obviously, they had a good plan. And I think, you know, after that, he has like all the like motivation for the next 8 weeks, you know, and I'm just kind of like, I've achieved what I want to achieve, but yeah, I'm going to, you know, go here. And not that I was taking it for granted. It's just like, at that level, you got to be 100% in. And I just wasn't 100% in. And I don't get to a leg and not finish often. Like, finishing is something that I take a lot of pride in. And in that match, you know, like, I didn't dominate it really in that first period. And he came out with kind of a different plan, and he really like took it to me early. And but then second period, I got to his leg, get up in the air, and I just felt in my mind like I need this takedown. The push out's not enough, and I just got overextended and didn't get that takedown. That was a huge momentum changer. I got the next takedown, again, I'm a minute left. I need to take down a win, and I just wasn't really able to execute it. So it's tough. I really don't like to lose. I hate losing. And that's the first time I've been beaten in a long time. And I just kind of come back from that, like, really questioning, like, well, you're just, do I want to still be here and doing these things? Because I don't want to wrestle like that, because that's not what I'm in it for. And then this year, so going into this match, he had, I would say, the momentum, going into it, kind of this new plan. So, identified a few things that I needed to change. I couldn't just keep wrestling him the exact same way. And, I had a very specific plan, and I realized instantly from almost the first whistle that it was going to be different. And I was able to execute those things. I believe if I was in better shape, I could have tech followed him. I just think I got to that point where I was okay and kind of content, to be up 7-1. And so I think I was, I think that's exciting, right? I think that, but that's the beauty of a match like that is now he's going to make adjustments. He was kind of a point where he felt like he had the plan, and that was the first time that I had to make the adjustments. So now we'll go back, he's going to figure out what he needs to do. And then I'm going to continue to make adjustments on how I can, hopefully continue to separate myself.
Yeah.
And that's like the motivating thing for me, in the World Championships next year and the Olympics in 2024 is, can I separate myself from my field? And if I can, how do I do that? So that's exciting. That's exciting for me. So it was, but it was a battle again, but I out wrestled him in the positions that I needed to out wrestle him in. And make some really good adjustments. I think, he's going to be forced to have to make changes now. But we'll see what those are,
Yeah.
And yeah.
It was cool because in the first 30, 40 seconds, he might have popped an underhook in, and there was a little bit of action on the out of bounds, and you circled in. But outside of that, there was nothing. He wasn't in the underhook, and you were just all over the ankles. There was even a point in the second where I thought you might concede the takedown in a little bit of a scramble, and then you re-scrambled him, and it's like there was nothing going for him in that match. You just completely shut him down.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was a huge match, right? For me in my career, that was a massive match because, it was a real true crossroads because I'd beaten him, I won, he beat me, so it's like, if I go out there and I lose that match, I have some serious things I got to think about, but to go out there and to wrestle the match that I did, I feel like was, it was a good testament to like my will, because, if you go out and lose that one, you come back and you're thinking twice, about a lot of things, like I said. So I'm pretty happy with that performance. And like I said, I think what that did is it validated and it refreshed me. And I just feel like that cloud that I had over the last year is gone. I'm sure it'll come back, over in periods of time, but I feel like I found ways to mitigate, that feeling. So, and I really think I thank him. I really do. I told him on the stands, we were going to award stand or whatever. I just said, I said, thank you. And I'll see you next year, because without him, I wouldn't have had the desire to have to make changes. I wouldn't have the desire to continue to get better. So, I'm grateful for him, and, we're going to continue to make each other better.
So when you're in a match like that, where there's so much riding on the match, and as you said, one of the most important ones in your career, when you're 15 minutes out of the match in the tunnel, what are you thinking to keep yourself calm so you don't lock up in a big moment like that?
It's interesting because it goes back to just years of preparation. Like I've been wrestling in, finals matches, at every level. Like, you could say Tulsa Nationals when you're 10 years old and you're in the finals and you're running out there in the smoke and you're getting ready, or you have a chance to win the Triple Crown because you won the last two before that. I've been battle tested at the highest level my whole life. And as soon as it got to the point where people could reshuffle matches, my matches are being reshuffled to the end, you know, and I've never been afraid to not wrestle the best guys. And I've been wrestling the best guys since the history of, you know, like go back and how many times has Flow Wrestling said, you know, the match, the marquee match, the whatever it may be. And I'm a part of almost all of those at every level, you know? So I just think that I've learned like, you know, times that I've gotten too excited, you know, times that I haven't been excited enough, you know, modifying your warm up, you know, like knowing like, do I warm up too early, too late, you know? So that's all a formula that I've developed over 25 years of wrestling at the highest level. So, you know, this one, he's like, okay, this match to me was bigger than the Olympics match. I really was.
No.
Yeah, to me personally, I think it was because I just knew I was gonna win the Olympics. Like I knew that like going into it, I was gonna win, nothing was gonna deter me. But then after losing after that, I really had questioned this year, you know, like I was the first time I've questioned a lot of things in a long time. So, you know, I in that match has been just sitting on my mind for all year. And I think that, you know, going into it, like I was nervous, you know, but nervous because I was excited to like really test. I knew that, all right, I'm going to get tested in this match and I'm gonna have to make a decision. Like, am I going to give in and get beat, or am I going to fight through it and beat this guy? You know, and although the score 7-1, like there were a lot of times in there where if I made the decision to fight and make a difference and score, if I give in, then the momentum shifts. You know, if I give up the push out, it shifts. If I get taken down, it shifts, you know, but to out wrestle those positions, then the momentum change. It's, you know, it's in my favor. So, and I've always, you know, wrestling, when there's wrestling things that happen, it always benefits me, you know? So I was, you know, I was excited, you know, about that. And honestly, I was in the tunnel. We were in the tunnel, loaded up to go out there, you know, we're standing there, you know, he goes out first, I go out second. And right there, I just was like, you know, reminding myself, you know, to believe in my abilities, you know, move my hands and move my feet. And, you know, and at that point, when you're like, okay, well, if I do those things and I get beat, then he's better than me. If I do those things and I win, then you execute what you want. And I was at peace walking out there and was able to go execute what I wanted to do, you know, and that was pretty good. And I tell my kids at M2 all the time, I'm like, when you're at the base, I tell them before the state tournament, before Super 32, you know, it's like the best guy doesn't always win. The best guy wins a lot, but it's a person that believes in themselves, you know? And, you know, I'm walking out there and I was just like, I can't tell my kids something and not do the same thing, you know? I'm not gonna be a hypocrite. So I just I was like thinking about that in my head. I'm like, let's go, let's believe in yourself. Let's go get this. You want to be here, you want to get it done. Let's go do this, you know? So that was fun.
Man, it was fun to watch. And that's a win where I hate to even speak it, but that might retire someone like Yazdani. I mean, that was such a shutdown that, tough to come up from there. What does the champ do after winning the world title? What'd you do that night with the family and the teammates?
So that's, you know, it's different. You know, my wife and kids came out. Both my girls came. My daughter turned 1 that day, you know, 1 year ago, you know, like 1 year ago, we were in the hospital, you know, my wife was giving birth and I left like 2 days after that to go to the world championships, you know? So it's like, it's crazy to think what that year has been like. So, you know, my godfather, who's been traveling to events since I was a little kid, came to Fresno Kids Nationals when I was like 12 and under, and he's been to pretty much everything since then. You know, he came, you know, my mom and dad were there. 2 of my buddies from college, Brian Pearsall and James English, they traveled out there to be there. You know, and just like, it was, you know, to be able to spend time with my family, you know, like my mother-in-law traveled out to help with the kids, and it was just low key, you know, we just met at a place, had some pizza, you know, like just kind of celebrated. And just for my wife and I, it was literally like, I just kept telling her like, man, I just can't believe it. You know, I just can't believe that I had the tournament that I had, because, you know, her and I had a lot of hard conversations this year, you know, and I couldn't do it without her. Like, she's my support staff. She's the one that like, she's like, dude, you need to get in gear. Like, you need to get focused, you know, like you gotta, you know, if we're making the sacrifices as a family for you to achieve these things, then, you know, then you got to decide it, you know, like I'll support you, whatever you want to do, you know? And, so it's just sharing that moment with her. It's like, you know, as we go further, it's truly a team victory, you know, and, it's just, you it's pretty cool. And from my, like, London, like she's 2.5. So she was like, you know, I told her before I left, I said, hey, I'm going to work, I'll see you soon. And, I'll come back with a gold necklace. And then as soon as I won, she just kept asking me where her gold necklace was, and all she wanted to do is wear her gold necklace, so she was pretty pumped. But
the kids have elephant memories, don't they? They remember everything like that.
Yeah. My daughter's a sponge. She remembers everything. So that was cool. It was chill. It was low key, and, just appreciate them.
Well, it's cool to watch it, to hear it now, because, so you're on this new platform called Live Trained, which we'll talk about here. And on Live Trained, it's a subscription-based platform. You had a docu-series following you around 16 weeks out of Final X, all the way through the Worlds. And I'm through episode 7 now. And shout out to whoever did it, because it's awesome. And that's a lot of content. I've done docu-series. That's a lot of content to shoot and to put all of it together in all those episodes. And so it was cool to see, you going down to Florida, going out to Colorado, the recovery day, where it's like, you go into any wrestling gym, you're a superstar, but at home, you're just a dad again, right? And you get humbled real quick. And so it's just cool to see that, and like what it's like behind the scenes for you. So talk a little bit about the docu-series and how that got going.
Yeah. So, Live Train's a new platform. It's pretty cool. We're continuing to build content on there, and content's something that, it takes time. It takes time, that docu-series, to start from scratch, and work on it. But, it's crazy. Like you shoot for like 3-4 days and you get 15 minutes of a clip, so it's a different type of fatigue too, like mentally, when you're like talking and you're sharing your life. And I just wanted to give like a real, like, honest perspective of my life, not just like the social media thing where this is Instagram, this is my highlight reel, this is cool. It's like, this is a real, trial and error process of what I'm feeling and my, what was going on this year, and really it's a process that we're going to document through Paris in 2024. And it's been a real fun process, and they followed me out to the different places that I've gone, and we're given like a real true inside look of like what it takes to, to be a champ, what it takes at this level and how it's evolved and changed, with the different things that I'm doing. So it's been a really fun process. I think we have 9 episodes on there. And then we're going to go through, they travel with me out to the World Championships. That episode's going to be really cool.
Bro, I can't wait for that.
It's going to be really cool. Yeah. So they were there, and like just kind of the whole process. And I shared with them, not to kind of spoil it, but like I did sit down with them. I was, that morning of the finals, and I was eating breakfast, and, we talked, and I was just talking to them about it. And I was just saying, hey, like, you're wrestling Yazdani in the finals, and like, I got 2 choices here. I have a plan, and now it's up to me to execute that plan. And, I think as a competitor, you got 2 things, right? You can practice something all the time, but you usually go back and just do what you're comfortable with, right? And I have years and years of doing something one way, and you go out there, whistle blows, and typically you just go right back to doing what you've been doing. And I said, if I do that, then this match is going to be really hard. But if I go out and execute what I've been working on, I have the ability to make the match not close, and that was like what I thought about. And to, now fast forward 12 hours later, and to truly be able to do that was pretty cool. So I think that's going to be a really fun clip to be able to share with people. It's Live Train, livetrain.com. A lot of my content is exclusive on there right now. And we got the docu-series. I got technique videos on there. We're going to develop other things, podcasts. And then we have a component with my club, where I'll be live streaming classes from my facility in State College to their facility in New Jersey, kind of, growing the M2 Training Center brand as well. So it's a really cool partnership, and continue looking, now that the World Championships are over, to kind of dive into it and continue to build. But, obviously I think it'll be a really cool thing for people to follow.
Yeah. And it's cool that it's dedicated to boxing, MMA, and wrestling. And a lot of it's like on-demand technique. So you could buy like David's, I'm butchering this, but maybe like your Top Game series, and that's a set cost. And you can also buy the Scrambling series, and that's a cost. So it's cool because I always think about, all these people I've had on my podcast, they're all champions, they're all winners. And before the internet, the only way that happened is if you got lucky enough to live in a district with a good coach. Like if you lived around some shitty coach, you basically were on your own. So I always think about the kids who are from the country or from these rural areas. I don't get people like you or like Izzy style or like, like the Arizona guys, the Valiant guys, right? If you don't have those top-notch coaches, it's really hard. So I love how, back in the day Flow and through now this live stream platform, it's giving kids who, if they don't live around a good coach, still the, the resources to get better.
I think, when I just think about this a lot, like I lived in Wyoming, and, back then, my dad just bought all the technique videos that he could buy. And I just learned with my dad, and down in the basement, I was 55 pounds. He was 200 pounds, like I'm just trying to retain this information. And I've always had the ability to like retain it and then go do it, where now it's like something like this is now makes things so much more accessible to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're in the best club and you want to enhance what you're doing, or you don't have the resources, but you want to get better. Well, now there's so many resources to get better. And that's something that I really want to do now, is continue to build the resources to help people continue to achieve their goals and get better and think things differently and critically. I think when I coach, I break things down, just like real specific hand placement, foot placement. And I really believe, as I continue to build the content on Live Train, it's an online coaching tool where people can go and really get better at wrestling, because I can't go and be everywhere, but I think with Live Train, like I can make that accessible, and any people from everywhere can access it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that the vision that I have for that.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And you go on there for the technique, but also the docu-series is really fun to watch. I just got a couple questions from the docu-series that I wanted to run by you. The first being, one of the episodes you really dive into your garage workout, and that's something that Coach Cal had sent you, the 7 exercises, 30 on, 30 off. When you're going through your week and planning the wrestling part of it, is that something you're like the head coach of, or is that something the Nittany Lion coaches and you guys are building out each week and month, like what you're going to do that week?
So I think, no, I would say like the training, like I have those training days that I communicate with Coach Cal. And then our wrestling is set, it's just a set schedule. So, it's just like, if I go in there, maybe I modify the wrestling that I do with the partner I choose. But it's not like it's structured around specifically what I'm doing, like it's, we're part of like a much bigger picture, and like we all kind of have our own strength and conditioning that we may do on different days, but we're all on the same wrestling schedule. And obviously I think you can modify your partner choice, right? You can go with, world and Olympic champion, and that's going to be a really hard workout. Or maybe you go with somebody else that's still going to be a really hard workout, but maybe a little different, maybe a little smaller than you, right? And I think that's where I've learned to moderate. It's like you can't give 100% here and then 100% here. Like I could at one time, but like now I can't really do that anymore. So to knowing like if I've given 100% in one area, then I need to be honest about where I can give the rest of my, effort. And I think that's just that was this year, kind of learning that was something. But just blessed to have great coaches that I can talk to about these things, and they can help me navigate these waters, and I can go out and give my best performance when I need to.
Yeah. Well, I just know like you put a lot of time into your top game in the gut. It's evident you've been working on the gut. So I didn't know if that's something where like you just look at your game and say, hey, I need to get better on top, or if that's something where the coaches say, hey, between now and over the next 6 months, we're going to work on different iterations of the gut wrench.
So Coach Varner, he's our Nittany Lion Wrestling Club coach. So he's really taken over, and this year was an effort for all of us. Like we spent a lot of time in parterre, because I think we're all in that spot where like, we're in great shape, we're gonna get takedowns, but we can make our life a lot easier if we get turns, and we all this year got better. We all were getting turns, in our matches, and it makes a big difference, like 1 turn, 2 turns, that's 2 or 3 less takedowns. That's 3, 4, 5 less times I got to get under somebody and build up, and the wear and tear on my neck and my shoulders and my back, But if I have to, right, the World Championships, like my first 2 matches got turns. Then against Kazakhstan, I got 5 takedowns. Against Yazdani, I got 3 takedowns, right? So if I didn't have to get 20 takedowns in the tournament, it's just those first couple, you can save a lot of energy. And I think that's one thing that like Sedulayev has done great in his career, is like when he can tech a guy in 30 seconds, he does it. Gets 1 takedown, gets 5 guts, boom, match over. And then if he has to wrestle a little more, but he doesn't have to wrestle full matches very often. And I think that's like, okay, well, you want to prolong your career. Well, if you don't have to wrestle a full match, you don't need to get, you don't have to. So that was cool. And I think a lot, I'm very critical and analytical of my performances and my practices. So I'm really honest, I'll go up to Coach Casey and be like, hey, I need to work on this. What do you think? Or I think, I need to, what do you think about this? And it's a lot of discussion. I've been working with him so long, that we know each other really well. And we've been able to just fine tune those things. And it's exciting to just have that relationship with him and continue to, make improvements.
Well, I think you look at the John Smith era, once he got into the 90s, his top game went through the roof and he was leg lacing people like crazy. I mean, that was like, you had to watch out for that more than anything. And if the last worlds he had where he was only wrestling 91 in Japan, he checked everybody. And it's like a lot of it from the top. So it's awesome to see you guys moving in that direction. Then the other cool thing about the docu-series, one of the episodes you go back and talk about training with your dad in the basement, and you would watch matches and you watch like Doug Schwab do a takedown or finish a takedown, and then you would go emulate that. And it was cool to hear about how when you were a kid, your goal wasn't to win, it was to dominate. And I just was wondering if you could talk a little about where that comes from. Like, who was like your motivation to wrestle like that?
I mean, Coach Kale, like I was just a kid, when he was, so 2004, when he won the Olympics, I was 13, so when he was winning in the college, like I was 8, 9 years old. And just watching him, like the joy he wrestled with. And I just remember, so every year I go down there, or every time I go to a practice, I would think, because I only had a few practices a week, so we traveled so much, so I was thinking about all the stuff that I had learned that week from like watching whatever I was watching and how to implement it. So I'd be down in the basement, jumping rope or lifting or whatever it was. And I would just I didn't like watching technique videos. I liked watching real live matches because that's how I could see it and learn it. My favorite thing was watching highlight videos where I just clipped things together because I could see it and I could like be like, oh yeah, I can do that. So, watching the way he wrestled and like specifically like his highlight videos, I'm like, I can emulate those things and I want to. And he was the only guy that was trying to go out to dominate people. And, early on in my career, I was a Smith mixer guy or neck wrench guy, and I pinned people, but if I wasn't pinning them, I'd get real frustrated. And my dad just finally was like, all right, we're not doing that anymore. Like, you got to go out and score points. You have to do 5 different takedowns and you can pin the guy. You have to do this. And now I was just motivated. I'm like, okay, 5 different takedowns, I'm going to do that. And then I could score so many ways. And then, at a young age, you want to win the outstanding wrestler. And that's like most pins, least amount of time. And it was hard to get 5 pins on somebody, but it was actually easier for me to get 5 tech falls, because I could go down and just start rolling people up with points. I have 5 tech falls and next closest guy have 3 pins and I'd win. So it was like validated, like the effort, and I think just had the ability to score in every level that I went through, from youth to junior high to high school, college. It was always like, okay, you did it here, but can you do it the next level? Oh, you did it here. Can you do it the next level? And it was just like, that was a challenge for me. And to be at the highest level and to still be, the majority of my matches are techs or pins, it's just continue to innovate and just have that mentality. Like if it's not a tech or a pin or something, I just don't feel satisfied that I gave my best performance, and I've had that expectation from my wrestling since, I was just a little kid.
Well, it's cool how you said, if you, outside of the highlight clips, if you actually watch some of the matches, they weren't all high scoring, but Kale's was like the only match where he was still wrestling, basically like a highlight clip the whole match.
Yeah. It was, he was on guys all the time, it was like fun. It was like a game for him. And that's just been trying to, have that mentality, of just like, it's like a game, how to continue scoring. So he's had a huge impact on my career. Even before I was with him, he had an impact on my career. And even now, he's a man of few words, but when he says something, it's, he really cares about all his wrestlers, and like, he doesn't ever really just say something to say something, and so, not only do I don't always listen, but, but sometimes I think back, I'm like, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, obviously, like if he has something to say, it's like, it's a way that he's trying to help me. So he just, he's always really cared about me. And, he's just had a huge impact on my life and on my career and on the sport of wrestling. Obviously the way he did it, but has impacted me in the way I wrestle, which has had a big impact on the sport of wrestling, which
now
is
all
pretty
those Penn State guys wrestle like absolute marauders like that. I mean, we just had Bo Nickel on. I mean, he was doing what you were doing to kids same way, just rolling people up. And that's that Cale Sanderson style. So awesome to that doc. I mean, getting back to the doc series, that's all talked about in there. Live trained, check it out. And for the wrestlers and the parents, you know, the technique videos will be more focused to you. It just reminds me, like, man, you got so much going on. You own several businesses. You own the M2 training facility. You own, or your wife owns a juice shop, K2 Roots, and then Scrap Life. I don't know if you're just sponsored by them or if you're involved in the ownership of that as well, but man, you got a lot going on right now.
Yeah, I do. You know, it's a lot. You know, I think that, you know, I'm an ambitious person, and I always want, I think I didn't ever want to be that, like, a wrestler that just wrestled and then it was like, now what type thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I think over the last 5-6, I would say it was like 20, right out of college, you know, I had a couple sponsors, you know, my life was pretty easy. You know, I just wrestled, I had a couple sponsors, I was getting checks, and then I wasn't winning and those checks went away, you know? And then you're like, oh shoot, man, it's not just like, you're not just going to make this money like this forever. You know, you can only do so many clinics before, you know, you just get burned out of the clinics or whatever. Like, there's got to be something more sustainable. So I just picked two things that I like doing, you know, wrestling with the club and nutrition. And, you know, we started those businesses, and it's like, it's consistent income, but it's also longevity. So, and it's things that we like, and we have a lot of other people that we can help and impact doing those things, which are things that we're very passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, you know, in the days when I decided that I'm done wrestling, I had different avenues. It's not like I have to figure out, well, what's next. So I think that was really what the ambition was, to start that way. You know, I wasn't ever like an entrepreneurial person. Like, my family wasn't entrepreneurial, neither were Kendra's really, but that was just kind of the route that we chose. But by doing that, it's just like, we have a lot going on. You know, we got like a lot of employees, you got taxes, you got things that go wrong, you got things that break, you're constantly doing something, you know, you're
Mm-hmm.
always on call, you can never turn it off. So, you know, it's tiring, but it's very rewarding too. So, it was just kind of like the route that we chose. And I'd say it's, like I said, it's challenging, it's busy, but it's something that we also do enjoy doing. And specifically the club, you know, when I started it, just started it, and I didn't know, like, if I was going to really like it, you know. And I think a lot of people just thought that I was just starting it, if I was ever going to be there, and didn't really care. But now, you know, we're 6 years into it. Mark McKnight and I started together first practice, and, you know, now we're still in it, and our first kids are kind of like starting to graduate, go to college, and we're in that first generation of kid, like, start to finish, that, like,
Mm-hmm.
they started with us when they were little kids, and now they're 7th and 8th grade. And it's just really cool to see their progress. You know, it's like, it's so rewarding. This weekend we were just out at the Premier National League. It's like the first event that we had. There's 8 clubs from around the country that are competing in this league, and our kids, we went out, we had 101 matches against the best, you know, best kids from, you know, all the clubs in the country, and we won 68 of the 101 matches. So we almost won 70% of the matches that we wrestled out there. So, you know, it's pretty cool to be 6 years in and be competing at that level. You know, we had some really good things. You know, we had some things we got to work on, but, you know, it's like we have right now it's Mark McKnight, myself, and Brad Pataki. And, you know, there's times when I am gone, I'm competing, and I'm not there. But, you know, it's like, as soon as I was back this week, I was back at practice. You know, I was back at practice, and I went out to Chicago. We had I got back Monday. I was at practice on Wednesday. We had our golf outing Friday. Mark and I got up Saturday morning at 5 a.m., flew there, got an Uber straight to the venue, put the kids to work, that warm up, coached all day, got on the plane the next morning, flew home, you know, and then we'll be back at practice tonight. So it's, you know, it's just really cool. And now these kids, these families are relying on us to help them, you know, to help them, like, with their training and their preparation. And it's evolved from just running practice. Like, we have plans for the kids, you know, we have setting a plan for the club, you know, and it's a pretty big commitment, but for the family as well as for us as coaches. But I'm so glad that I started it, because I love it and I'm so passionate about it. And wrestling and training, like coaching club and training, like, it's 50-50 for me. Like, it's not like one dominates the other one. Like, I love them both equally. And I think they both are helping me, you know, together too. So it's pretty cool.
Well, that's why I mentioned is, dude, to run a club in an elite club like yours, I think about like Jody Stripmatter in his club. That's full time for him. And he's not also training to be an Olympic champion. So, but like you said, you're going to this stuff. I mean, you're wearing the PNL hat, and that's why I mentioned it. Man, like that's a full-time gig to be a coach. I mean, to even be a high school coach, let alone a full year club coach. So it's awesome that you're so into it. And we'll just sign off with this. So you mentioned the PNL is this league of 8 clubs. I call them like I don't know, not super clubs, but just like the top AA of like the clubs in the country. I know a lot of Iowa people are a little hurt that TJ didn't get the invite, but I'm sure there's a story for that. But I don't want the Iowa people assaulting me. Tell me what the PNL is. Like, so you said it's 8 clubs, and you guys get together and do dual meets or tournaments?
Yeah, so it's 8 clubs from around the country. So it's Century Training Center, Young Guns, Askrens Wrestling Academy, Pinnacle, Zach Dominguez, NWC, Valiant Prep, Eric Larkin, and Angel Cejudo, Cormier's Club, and
Izzy Style.
So, those are the 8 clubs. We I think we've all talked about doing something like this for a long time. And we kind of just got together and did it, and I think, we're going to expand to more teams next year and more teams after that. And, I'm grateful to be a part of it. I think it's a great event for our kids. I think it's I think it's something that's sustainable. You can set a schedule around it. I think the biggest thing that's frustrating is, as a club, you have these kids, and there's so many events out there, right? And you kind of get forced, like, well, I can fill half this dual team, but I can't really fill the other half. So I got to go out and like get kids for these things. And it's just like, you never really have a true representation of your club in a dual format, because you're competing against purely all-star teams, and so that part of it's a little frustrating. So, now we go, and what you do is, we would go there and we rank our kids tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, based on, different criteria: nationally ranked, state champion, state placer, state qualifier, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania is a little different because, I think, state qualifier in Pennsylvania is weighted a little heavier than maybe a state placer in a different state. So then we talk about it, but essentially it's like you're just grouping them together. So this weekend, like, if you're a tier 1 kids from all the clubs in those weight classes, they're all together. So, and then you're wrestling in a round robin format. So this weekend, I mean, there were national ranked kids that won 1 match. There were kids that, weren't nationally ranked, but beat 3 or 4 nationally ranked kids. So I think it's a great thing where that you're going to go, you're going to get 4, 5, 6 really good matches in one day. We can be there. We can set the schedule. We can sit there and we can be kind of coach all the different kids. And then we can reassess. And it's because it's small in the beginning, it's only 8 clubs. Like, we can say, like, all right, this is what was good, this wasn't as good. We can make adjustments. And then before it gets really big, it continues to grow and we add more clubs. Mm-hmm. So I think that it will grow clubs, around the country, because and it gives the kids in the clubs a platform for college coaches to look at kids to recruit them. So this weekend we had, different socks for different age group kids. So, red, white, blue, gray. So a college coach can say, wow, this kid's pretty good. Well, he's a freshman, and they can see they can track the results. Maybe a kid starts in the B tier, has a really good tournament, wins it. Now the next tournament, they bump up to the A tier. You can kind of track their progress. I think this weekend there were 40 college coaches that were there watching these kids compete. And, so I think it's a great platform for the kids and the clubs, and consistent. So I'm excited, obviously getting us started. Izzy ran this first event and he blew it out of the park. I mean, the refereeing was great. The tournament ran really well. And the wrestling was really good. It was good for our middle level kids and our highest level kids to get a chance to compete. So it'll just keep getting better. We have a 5th through 8th grade event in Arizona in January. And then we'll have a 5th through 12th grade event in Pennsylvania in April. And that one will be huge. Nice. And I think another element that's cool about it is, we have requirements that you have to be a certain requirement to the club. So you can't just be like, well, this kid's really good, he's going to wrestle for M2 today and Young Guns tomorrow. Like, basically it's like, okay, well, kid has to kind of pick and align with one club or the other club. So you're not just like pulling these kids randomly for events, you're actually developing these kids as part of your club. Yeah. So I think that's really cool too. And I think that's an important aspect to it. Obviously Young Guns and us are unique because we're like so close together. And we don't have a ton of overlap between the two clubs, but obviously just you want to have, like, the other ones are pretty regionally located, and I just think that's I think that's going to be a cool thing as we continue to grow, and as we add more places around the country, it'll be it's going to be really cool to see how it tracks and progresses.
Well, I was just wondering what the motivation for it was, but you answered it. It's, just, there's so many events. So obviously there's no shortage of events for kids to go to, but it's almost like, I didn't know if like maybe some of these super elite kids are going to tournaments and they're just tech pinning everyone through the semis and they're not actual matches to them. So they want to like only wrestle these elite kids, but it's cool. You have different divisions, like the tier 1, the tier 2, the tier 3. And so the next event's Arizona in January, and then PA in April.
Yeah, December. I'm sorry. It's in
December.
December, and then in April. Yeah. So, I mean, it's good for every layer of your club, so it's not like you're just trying to create an event and then these kids that come every single day, they don't get a chance to wrestle for your team. Like, we had kids this weekend that were able to go compete that don't get a chance to typically wrestle for our club. And it's not because you're choosing one person over the other one. I can't fill 6 dual teams, but but now it's like, hey, you can pick whatever weights you want to pick, whatever you feel is most competitive. And then we can get you guys these matches. And it was really good. It was good for every level. So it was tough. It was tough balancing it because I'm getting ready for the World Championships, so we're in this group checks. We're trying to figure out everything out, but, Mark and Brad did a great job. The kids looked really good, very prepared. And we, but it was a lot of fun. And I think our kids really enjoyed it and looking forward to the next one.
Well, you look at the list of coaches there. Izzy posted a picture. It's like, that's like an amazing collection of talent. And I'm sure it was just awesome to be there. And, Izzy's like the ultimate promoter. So if he's behind it, it was going to go off without a hitch, man. I mean, that guy, he's unbelievable. Well, David, it's been awesome to have you on, man. I'm sure you're still kind of catching up after the Worlds. And it was just so awesome to watch you compete out there. And, we're so excited for the next 2 years. And it's just all good things ahead, man. Any last words before we sign off?
No, thanks. Obviously these podcasts are great. Appreciate, obviously plugging some things, that's great. But the next 2 years, it's gonna be pretty great. I have an opportunity to win a second Olympic gold medal, and it won't be easy. First one wasn't easy. This one, it's just gonna be a different process. It's gonna be a different, obviously different things to face. But I think this weekend was a, proving factor that you can do, I can still do it at a really high level. And I believe I still have a lot of progress to go. So, I appreciate, you helped me get on here, and everyone that follows my journey. We still got a couple more years, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And there's only been two-time Olympic gold medalists that I know of, Bruce and John Smith, and it happened at the same Olympics. Have there been any others, or is that it?
I think there was one more. And this one we got US Team USA. I think we have four people that can win a second Olympic gold medal in this next Olympics. So that could be 5
Snyder,
people. We have 5.
Snyder, JB,
me, Helen, Tamara.
There you go.
I think that's the 5. So we got a pretty great thing going in the United States right now. So it's we're all motivating each other.
Awesome, man. Well, David, thanks again for coming on, man. We wish you nothing but the best, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
All right. Thank you.